You are listening to Exploring Sacred with your host, Denise Iwana Francisco, on the Temple Within Radio and Digital Media Network, giving voice to the sacred.
Good evening, everybody. Here I am back again. Please let me know if you can hear me okay. That would be fantastic. Here I am over in this group, and I'm just going to take just a moment to go over and share this show with others. So if you could just hold on for just a second here. We're going to go ahead and get this shared. And there we go. That's the end of that one. And get this going where it needs to be. I think tonight's show is going to be a really, really good one. And those of you that are watching and or listening, for those of you that are watching at the moment, if you would do me the great good favor of going ahead and sharing the show, that would be fantastic. I'm not quite certain what happened this evening with the audio. We know that the visual worked, but the audio was having a couple of minutes of problem there. So if you would go ahead and share the show, that would be fantastic. And let me take a little look here right now at what we've got going on. There we go. There I am. Thank you all. Just bear with me for just a moment here as we work on the little technicalities here. Okay, I believe we are ready to rock and roll now that we are going. And hey, good. Lily says she can hear me now. So that's what I get for fiddle farting around with the computer system and the speaker system and everything I've got going on here on my desktop tonight. But it's really good to have you all with me, whether you are watching me live via YouTube or Facebook, BeLive TV, or listening to me right now on Spreaker and all of its affiliates. It's great to have you with me tonight, so thank you for being here. Tonight's topic is, I think, pretty relevant to the season that we are in. Some call it the season of the return of the thunder beings, the thunder oyate, that time of the year when things in the northern hemisphere are renewed. Yeah. And things in the southern hemisphere are at a time of harvest. So it's about renewal. It's about coming through the dark time. Some people call it the dark night of the soul, coming through a time of introspection, of going within, like the Bear Nation, going within, coming out into the light of a new day. Some people refer to it as spending time in the Garden of Gethsemane and being born again. But in the northern hemisphere, this is a time of coming up through the soil of winter and out into the light of a brand new day. And as all of you know, this show on Wednesday evening is a give and a go. It's all about having conversation and exchanging ideas. And Gabriel is going to lend his 2 cents because he tends to do that when my show is running. So, hey, Julie McMahon, it is great to see you in the house. And Elise Miller, good to have you there. And Lynn, thank you for being there. And Connie, fantastic. Rob, Lily, good stuff going on. Very, very good. Thank you for sharing. Hey, Lady Hawk, good to have you in the house. Yeah, thank you for sharing, liking and sharing the show because I appreciate that. So tonight we're going to talk about a subject. Yeah, the conversation starts with Gabriel. Fear not. Fear not. Absolutely. And Lynn is saying she's been having hard times for the past 9 weeks. Well, you know, this is the season of reflection. This is a season of going within. It's the season of, you know, in the winter represents that time of the year when things die, when things on the surface die. They're frozen in time. Jane Joubert, where the heck have you been? I have missed you on Tuesday mornings and Wednesday evening. It's good to have you back. Winter time for me represents the direction of the north, and for me that represents the color of red, or the color we call luta. Luta, that time of hardship, that time when we go within, a time of introspection, of taking a look of what it is that we need to shake loose of in order for the spring to bring with it the new. The new. When we go through the darkness on our journey to the dawn, we are never ever the same. We're never the same. After a winter of true reflection, introspection, of going within, when we come out on the other end of that, we come out of the dark night into the light of day, or we cross the 40 days in the desert, and we meet ourselves on the other side, we're never the same person. And I think that you can all, hey Kelly, hey Lisa, it's good to have you back. We are never ever the same person. And frankly, that is the reason. That is the reason for those times in our life when we go through the darkness, when we go through the time of really taking a look within ourselves. And winter offers a wonderful opportunity to do that. The direction of the north, that direction of red, for me on the Chongleshka, the medicine wheel, represents letting go of the hardships from the previous year. And what are we going to do with the hardships from the previous year? The winter gives us time to ruminate about it, to think about it, to make decisions. To make decisions to let go, to make decisions to hang on, to make decisions to change things, to switch things up, including ourselves. And that requires an understanding that life will never, ever, ever be the same. And that doesn't mean that going through the dark time or the winter season of our life, that doesn't mean that something negative is happening. Oftentimes, we can find ourselves in a place of a plateau, a place of, where am I? Who am I? What is this that I'm going through? Why am I going through it? As Lynn is saying, why can I not stop crying? Why are these changes happening inside of me? Good evening, Meg. Because something, someone, some part of you, your soul, is trying to prepare you for change. You're being prepared for change. Sometimes we can feel those changes, even though we can be in a place of plateau or lack of understanding, or where am I really? I know something is happening. I can feel it. I can sense it. Something is going on. I don't quite have my finger on it, but something in my life, something within me is about to die. It's about to change. It's about to expand. And what do we do with that? Meg is saying she's feeling stuck. Julie is saying the salmon, letting go and go with the flow. Oh, I love that. Your mom. I love flow. Hey, Mary Zarowitz. Oh my goodness. I love all my peeps in the house tonight. So a lot of us are feeling what we call, some people call the Easter season. Billions of people around the world at this time are in a time of, we call it Lent, the season of preparation, of ascending out of. We cannot ascend out of the old, out of old thought patterns, out of old relationships, out of stale ways of being. We cannot ascend without letting go and ascending through. When we can feel that something is changing, and sometimes we do feel stuck. I mean, Meg, you are absolutely right. We can feel absolutely positively stuck in a space, and people will say, I don't know what to do. I'm stuck. Dana, what do I do? I don't know whether to go forward. I don't know whether to go left or right. I don't know whether to back my bus up. My response to that typically is then just be. And be in a state of prayer. Be in a state of gratitude. Be in a state of peacefulness. Whatever that is for you that brings you to a place of balance, even while being stuck. Because there are times as the changes, as the greater teachings are coming to us, that rather than rush to them, I know that I'm supposed to be somewhere. I know that I've got to get somewhere because I know that something new is waiting for me. Oftentimes, the best response that we can have is to simply be, and to be with it, even if we don't understand it. Thank you, Spirit, for helping me to be patient, to help me remain peaceful in this time of being very quiet. I know that something is just around the corner. I can feel that I'm on the precipice of something. I can feel that I'm changing inside. The way that I'm thinking about things, my perceptions about things are changing. Thank you for helping me to remain peaceful, to remain joyful, until I begin to have glimpses of what it is that I'm walking toward, and that is walking toward me. I'm really glad that you brought that up, Meg, because sometimes in feeling stuck, we feel as though we are not going anywhere. We're not accomplishing anything in this, what I call a plateau or a lull. And we all have those lulls, particularly just before changes happen. Hello, on Pay-to-Wash Day. Del Marie. It is good. Oh, it is evening time. You're right about that. Gabriel, your nephew, is saying hello as well. Oftentimes when we're in that state of stuck or in that state of in between, it's an opportunity to take a look at what within us is saying, Dana, you need to let me go. Dana, you need to let that go. Dana, you need to confront that. You need to take a really close look at that. That stuck space, the in-between space, is the space that gives us time for prayer, contemplation, meditation, and forward movement internally. Internally. Thank you for giving me the signs. Thank you for giving me the signposts along the way so that I can understand this feeling of change that's coming upon me. Thank you for guiding the way. You know, whether you're talking to a deity, whether you're talking to God, whether you're talking to your guardian angels, whether you're talking to yourself, your higher self, your soul self. Thank you for giving me signs, giving me a place of peacefulness to wait patiently for the change. Sometimes the change, hey, Lisa McCarty. Sometimes in that darkness before the dawn, in the lull, have you ever had this situation where you know something's going to happen? Call it precognition, premonition, whatever it is, and you're not really certain what it is, but by golly, you can feel something is going to change. And maybe you have a premonition or a precognition about the change. What do you do about that? What do you do about that? Sometimes the change comes so quickly that we aren't even aware, we weren't made aware that the change was coming. And typically that comes with the passing of a loved one, an unexpected passing of a loved one. And we find ourselves in a place of darkness. Sometimes it feels like it's a darkness that's never going to end. Unlike those times in our life when we know change is happening and we can't wait for the change to happen, and I want it to happen right now, and it can't happen fast enough. Yesterday wouldn't have been soon enough for that to happen. When the darkness contains the passing of someone that we love, whether it's a two-legged person that we love or a four-legged person that we love or a feathered friend that we love, you know what I'm saying, someone that we love. Sometimes that moment of darkness can come upon us so quickly. We feel as though we cannot possibly ever expect to see the light. We're certain that our life has also ended. And what I will say is that when we lose a loved one, when a loved one has crossed over, our life is never the same. Whenever there's a time of change, our life is not ever going to be the same. When someone that we love passes on, goes home to the realm of spirit, our life is never the same. Chris Eaglehawk said it best last summer out on Pine Ridge. Dell, you were there, of course, with me during the wiping of the tears ceremony. And Chris said something clearly that I've never forgotten, since he said it, was that, your loved one wants you to go on. Your loved one wants you to have joy. Your life will never be the same without the physical presence of your loved one. But you must move on. The wiping of the tears ceremony happens about a year after the passing of somebody. So it's not like the next day or the next week or any of that sort of a thing. The wiping of the tears ceremony happens 1 year. And so for that 1 year, we can find ourselves perhaps in a time of darkness, in a time of thoughtfulness, in a time of remembering, in a time of walking down memory lane, a time of grieving the way our life was, and perhaps grieving the way that our life is not ever going to be again without the physical presence of our loved one. But as Chris Eaglehawk said to me and to everyone at the wiping of the tears, your life will never be the same. That's the purpose for the darkness before the dawn, again, is that our life will never be the same. And what are we going to do about that? What about an illness? Sometimes the darkness comes into our life as an illness that presents itself to us. Sometimes it can be a catastrophic illness. Sometimes it can be an illness that takes us through the dark night of the soul into the light of day, into the light of a new way of being, into the light of what am I going to do now? What am I going to do now? So whether that illness happens to be diabetes, heart attack, stroke, a vehicular accident, what do we do in that time of healing? In that time of moving through and processing, along with our body, this time of darkness. And when I say darkness, I don't necessarily mean dread. When I use the word darkness, for me, the darkness represents fertility. It represents the fertile soil, the Black Madonna, the time of really going into the depths of our own soul, of our own psyche, into the soil of our soul, the soil of our life, and frankly, the soil of our soul's avocation. I happen to believe that every time we visit a place of fertility, of fertile soil, of darkness, the dark night, we are being prepared even more deeply and more succinctly to walk with the soul, with the avocation of our soul, what we came here to do. I believe that the darkness reveals to us a whole lot of light. I think it sheds a whole lot of light if we allow it to shed light. Okay. Rob, the advice I was given by a wise woman when everything inside me wanted to die was just let it die. That's right. That's right. Sometimes there are things in our lives that make us feel as though we want to die, our physicality wants to die. Most often, it's not our physical body that wants to die, it's something within us, a belief system. My daughter called it the white picket fence. Mom, I need to let that white picket fence life that I thought I should have, I need to let that die in order for me to heal. Hey, Joyce Elliott. Oh my goodness, Joyce, I was just talking to my son Dane, and we were just talking about your cousin Pete Elliott. And voila, here you are. How would light come out of an illness? I love that question. That's a great question. Here's what light comes out of that illness. Most often, some of the most courageous people that I know that live with an illness, that have passed through an illness, become an inspiration to other people. And Joyce, I know that you are one of these inspirational people. I know that you live with illness, that your body has challenges. And yet, Joyce, the light that comes through you in your laughter, in your being there for other people, in helping other people to see that illness can be a real challenge. It can be hard. It can be really hard. But there's also life to live, and there's still joy to be had. That's how the light comes out of illness. That's exactly how it happens. And I know for a fact that you are one of those people who, even walking in that space of illness, you are an inspiration and a source of joy to other people. There are people who meet you that if they were to find out that you had physical challenges would be like, are you kidding me, Joyce? That can't possibly be. And it's not like you're faking it until you make it. It's just who you are. It's just, oh my, Kelly Spencer. Kelly Spencer, I would like you to meet Joyce Elliott. Joyce and I were friends in high school here in Michigan, and she helped to change the course of my life in wonderful ways. And Joyce, you're welcome. I love you too. That's how an illness, and it doesn't mean we always have to be rosy every day. Because you know what, some days, frankly, we're not rosy. There are days, ask Todd, he'll tell you. Ask Lily and Kelly. There are days it ain't rosy. There are days, that would not be a word to describe me. Especially if I'm having a day where I can't speak. You know, one of the challenges of having a left brain stroke is that sometimes I can't talk. And there are times when I can't talk and the words are jumbled, and Todd will just look at me and say, it's okay. Just be quiet. It's okay, honey. I understand. We're just going to be quiet for the rest of the night. It's all right. And in those moments of not being able to get my words out and dropping things with my right hand, I don't feel rosy. But I keep going to the best of my ability. Yeah. And Elise is saying, I have to give up everything I love because of this condition I have. It's very difficult. I needed to hear this. It is. We are never, ever the same after visiting the Garden at Gethsemane, right? That place that Jesus went, right? So I use that particular story at this time of the year because it's Easter season. Why have you forsaken me? It's where he met up with his Judas, with his greatest challenge in life. Sometimes our personal Judas, our personal challenge, is the one that will help us ascend out of our humanness and into our higher state of being, our higher awareness, into our soul light. And for some reason I'm showing that I am not connected again, so I'm not really sure what's going on with that. Can you see me, Julie? Will you just let me know? Okay, there we go. And Lynn is saying it's been 9 weeks since her husband left her. And yeah, I mean, it's one of those things where we have to have community. We find community. We find community here on Facebook with the show. We find community in various places with friends. We find community in support groups. One of the things as we're going through the dark night, the practicality of it is sometimes we're just called to be quiet with it, to be with it. And then there comes a time when we need to act upon it, to move forward. In the dark night, knowing that something in our life, maybe many things in our life, will never ever be the same. We have to acknowledge that and not deny it. Being in a place of denial really doesn't help anybody. And there are a lot of people that come to a place of denial. There are people that can help us through that dark time in our lives, whether it is a therapist, whether it is a rabbi, an imam, a holy person, a friend, a counselor, a psychiatrist, a doctor. There are people in our community, if we reach out and we reach out to the right person who can help us. Sometimes we have to get over our own thoughts, perhaps, about what it means to see a therapist, what it means to see a counselor. Some people were taught that if you are weak, you're weak if you go to see a counselor. Every county, every community has, a 411 or a 211? Reach out to your family doctor. Family doctor can help get you to a counselor. A local church minister can help get you to somebody who can help you in the community. One of the other things that often happens when we're going through this time of transitioning, of the death without dying, being born into the next of who we are to be and who and how we are to inspire others, isn't it amazing how our dream times can also be affected? Because you see, help doesn't only come from the physical plane. When we find ourselves in a time of transitioning, a time of darkness before the dawn, before that light finally appears, there's a lot more that happens just then on the physical plane. Our guardian angels draw near. Our guides from spirit draw near. Our loved ones who have gone home before us, our ancestors, I will call them, draw near. Sometimes the best prayer that we can put out in one of these times of the dark night is, help me to see through the darkness. Help me to see. Wakantanka, Tankashila, Wopila. Thank you for helping me to see through this time. Thank you for getting me to the help and getting the help to me that I need at this time. Jesus, thank you for leading the way, for holding my hand, for getting me to the help that I need and getting the help that I need to come to me. Buddha, creator, maker, whatever that is for you. There are billions of people around the world, and they all connect to Source in different ways. One of the beautiful things about growing up as an Army brat on lots and lots of military bases is I had the privilege of growing up around people that came from very diverse backgrounds, religious backgrounds. And as most of you know, I was taught at a very early age to respect all pathways to Creator, to educate myself. I was really happy last week. I received an invitation through Central Michigan University to come up there in the spring as a Denison scholar and to teach about religion. And I was really happy to be able to do that, because one of the things that we can shed or begin to question during the dark night is perhaps the religion that we were raised with. Perhaps we weren't raised with any religion, and during the dark night, all of a sudden, perhaps spirituality, the soul, begins to call us. Maybe religion begins to call us. Many people receive their calling at the crappiest time of their life. Am I right about that or what? You all know. How many of you have had one of these experiences of the darkness before the dawn that led you to where you are right now, fully ensconced on your path? What happens when we don't answer that call? The call in the darkness that says, hey, Dana, things need to switch up a little bit over here. And I need you to help. I need you to help my people over there. But first, you need to understand this, that, or the other thing. I have a beautiful client. Oh my goodness. I love talking to this woman from Boston this afternoon. And she is training to be a midwife, a spirit doula. And she said to me, she's a young woman, she said to me this afternoon, I know, Denise, that I am going through this dark time in my life, this time of questioning, this time of healing, of taking a look at childhood wounds that I never really fully faced, that I never really wanted to face, let alone heal and work through. But I know that I'm being called to do that right now in order for me to be a better spirit doula, baby doula, midwife. How can I possibly be the best that I can be without really taking a look at those times in my life that were my greatest challenge? Because I think that there were lessons in those times of challenge that I'm to bring into my adult womanhood. There are those people who face every dark night of the soul as a child because of a case of arrested development, whatever that happens to be. I mean, there are people who just can't really get off of a dime when the darkness or a challenge comes to call. There are those people that when they are challenged by the darkness, an illness, a passing, a change in things, moving forward. Some people do not like change. Some people will rail against change to the detriment of their own health, to their own psyche, to their own life. There are people, I call it taking up residence on the pity pot. Taking up residence on the pity pot. There are some people who will remain on the pity pot of woe is me. I'm stuck in the dark night, and frankly, I kind of like it here in the dark. Don't have to do my makeup, don't have to do anything with my hair. I can be in my big baggy sweatshirt and sweatpants all day long. I'm just going to sit here in the dark because it's comfy here and make a little popcorn and have a little soda, and I'll just have people come to me in the dark because I really don't want to come out into the light of a new day, into the light of a new me. I'm just going to stay here. We all know people like that. Sometimes the dark night of the soul says that we need to let those people that are ensconced on the pity pot of life, we need to let them go. Sometimes in the dark night, we need to let go of those people that are sitting on or within a cage of anger. Sitting in a cage of malfeasance, we have to let them go. Change is scary. And the most scary thing about change is the fact that you have to let go of some things, including people sometimes, including belief systems, including, hey, I have some questions. I'm questioning now what I was taught as a child. I'm questioning this thought that I've always had. I'm starting to have some self-doubts. And if I have self-doubts and if I find out what I was always taught as a child really isn't necessarily true, if that change means I have to let go of what I've always known and whom I've always known, I don't know that I want that. That's scary. The letting go is frightening. The unknown is even more frightening. And this is where the saying, keep the faith, comes in. Sometimes the only thing we can do, even while we're on our pity pot, because we've all been there, I've been there, y'all know I've been there, right? We're there for a minute. We're not supposed to take up residence on it, right? Some people move in, they build a shelter all the way around their pity pot. You ever know anybody like that? And you have to come and knock at the temple of their pity pot house? But that's a whole other thing. I've just got on the subject of this with my Chuways this past week out on the reservation. We were talking about the pity pot and how it's good to sit for just a minute on the pity pot, but then we need to start looking for the good things, for the light of day, for what comes next. Keeping the faith, or having the faith, or the understanding that divine timing is very, very real. Understanding that the Creator loves us. Understanding that the leap of faith means that the net of faith is going to appear. Trusting and having faith is scary. Why is it scary? Because sometimes we have had such faith in someone or something that let us down. Sometimes the thing or the person or the entity that let us down, therefore we no longer have any faith, is our own thought about the way things should be. Sometimes the thought about the way, doggone it, this is how it should be. This is how it's supposed to be. We let our own selves down with our own thoughts about the way things are supposed to be, the way society teaches us things are supposed to be. When we understand that for each and every one of us, there's a larger picture, a much greater picture. We came here to shine our light. You all know that I say that because I believe it. I know it. I know it. Sometimes the way that I thought my life should be, my life came out to be exactly the opposite of that. One of the dark nights of the soul is divorce, isn't it? I would venture to say that 99% of men and women who trot on down the aisle, stand in a park, right, go to the justice of the peace, are not going to any of those places because they're hoping that they're going to get divorced really soon, right? We have these great big grand Catholic weddings. The premise of that is not that we are going to get divorced. Divorce can be one of the darkest nights of the soul. And what I will say about that is any time that we are in a place of letting go, we need to mourn what it is and who it is, or one or the other, that we are being made to let go of, we are being asked to let go of, or we know we need to let go of. It's wonderful to know that change is going to happen, and Lisa, I agree with you. That all ties back to manifestation and keeping your thoughts in check. If you are dwelling on the negative, what I don't have, how bad I feel, we manifest more of it. Yes, I've known people who, no matter what restaurant they go to, this is just a little example. I have a relative like this. No matter what restaurant they go to, they always get what they call the crappiest wait staff. Their food always comes cold. The waiter, the waitress, always rude, doesn't know what they're doing, every time. So I said to this woman many years ago, well, maybe the waitress or the waiter is having a bad day, and maybe you need to take that into account. Maybe you need to smile at them. I don't know what it is. But don't you find it odd that you are saying 100% of the time when you go to a restaurant, you expect that there is going to be poor service, and poor service is exactly what you get. Oh, well, I never thought about it that way, she said. Come to think of it, I do always expect, I wonder what this waiter or waitress is going to be like. I said, well, before you leave the house to go wherever it is you're going to go eat, maybe what you can say is thank you. Thank you for a positive experience. But remember, you're part of that equation, so be part of the positive experience. That's just, one of those mundane things, to your point, Lisa. But I do want to say, change is scary because we don't always know what the light of day is going to reveal when we get to it. And it's okay. It's more than okay. It is necessary to take time to mourn if you feel that you need to mourn the loss of a marriage, the loss of a friendship, the loss of a job, the loss of who you thought you were going to be. I think of the people in the world. I have a couple of clients who have had catastrophic car accidents that landed them in wheelchairs. It landed their body in a wheelchair, but it certainly didn't land their soul or their spirit, because while their avocation changed, their understanding is that everything does happen for a reason. We don't always understand in that moment the reason. I do happen to believe everything happens for a reason, and everything happens at the perfect time, even when we don't understand it. Julie's saying, Amen, Denise, yeah. Yes, even if we are mourning what we thought it should be. Even when we are mourning what we thought the marriage would be. What we thought the job would be. Here's one, anybody who's a parent or an auntie or a grandparent. Sometimes the dark night has us understanding that who we thought the child that we love is not going to be who we dreamt or hoped or thought they would be. Any of you have that experience? I remember Elise came to me when she was 5. Yes, 5. And she came to me, I was in the bathroom, because the best conversations happen in the bathroom, don't they? Especially with a 5-year-old. So I was in the bathroom and she came in tears, in her little Barbie doll nightie gown. And she was crying, and she was crying so hard. And I said, sweetheart, what's the matter? And she said, I don't ever want to have children. And I don't know why I don't ever want to have children, but Mom, I never want to have a baby. And I said, well, Elise Marie, I mean, you're only 5 years old. Why are you worried about that already? Why are you concerned? You haven't even started kindergarten yet. About having to tell me that you don't want to have babies. You don't ever want to go through the experience of having a baby. Why are you telling me that? At 5 years old, she looked at me and she said, because I know that you love babies, and I don't want you to be mad at me for not having babies. And I scooped that little red-haired, curly girl up, and I said, Elise Marie, look at me. Whoever you came here to be is who you need to be. And whether or not you ever have babies, if you have 10 babies, I'm going to love you no matter what. That does not require you to have babies, because you know how much I love babies. And she was so relieved. Well, okay, off she went, right? We still talk about that to this day. Some people I know who didn't have the opportunity or won't have the opportunity to even be a grandparent. That is a dark night of the soul for some people. And that's okay. Mourning the fact that you will never be a grandmother, you will never be a father, a mother, a grandfather, an auntie, an uncle. Take the time to mourn that. To grieve for perhaps the vision or the thoughts that you would have about what will it be like when I get to be a grandma, when I get to be a mother, a father. It's okay. It's okay. Hey, you know what? Here's the thing. My dad was a cool dude. He wasn't easy. The Sarge was not easy because he was the Sarge. Anybody, I mean, Kelly Spencer, you know. Julie McMahon, you know. The Sarge, not an easy guy. He couldn't have children. He could not have children of his own. And so, when I was being rehomed, he adopted me. He took me. He didn't let that stop him. As he told me later, he said, it's not the way I thought it was going to be, Denise Lynn. But I ended up getting my little girl anyway. Just not the way that I thought it was going to happen. But in the meantime, I'm certain that there were times when he had to mourn. He was in a dark space. What do you mean I can't have children? And later, he did, my little brother was born 12 years later. So that, the Hawaiian air does wonders for things. My point in all of this is springtime. It's the time when the medicine wheel turns from winter to spring. We're coming out of a time of reflection, of introspection, taking a deep look, taking a look at the trees in the backyard to see which one of them still has leaves hanging on the tree. Whenever I look out in the enchanted forest and I look at the trees that still, even though autumn and winter have come and gone, and I look at the trees that still have leaves hanging from them, it reminds me to take a look within myself to any of the leaves that I haven't yet let go of. The daffodils really would like to bloom along with the crocuses and the tulips. They can't do that without fertile soil. They couldn't do it without letting go of the stalks that bore their flowers last year. Thank you, Deed, for reminding us that life isn't easy. As bad, hard as life can get, there are always positive aspects. Yes. There are always positive aspects. I remember years ago, I was teaching at Olivet College, Great Lakes Retreat. And there was a man in my classes for many years that suffered with depression. And one year I showed up, it was the last year that I taught there, and he looked at me and he said, I finally found the cure for my depression, for my chronic depression. And I said, oh my goodness, Jeff, what was that? And he said, well, for me, he said, this is just me. He said, I had a really long talk with myself. He said, I'm 60 years old. I've been living with chronic depression my whole life, and I was getting depressed about being depressed and tired of being depressed. And so I had a talk with myself. A really long talk with myself. It wasn't pretty. I said, well, what'd you tell yourself? And what'd yourself tell you? He said, well, silly as it might sound, but it worked for me. It may not work for everybody else. I became a volunteer at the Humane Society. I love it there. Denise, I love it there. I said, well, what do you think, what aspect of that helps you with depression? And he said, because I'm there on behalf of other beings. Those dogs and those cats, they need me. They love me. He said, becoming a volunteer at the Humane Society saved my life. He said, I wasn't going to let that depression beat me. And so I finally had to have a really dark, deep talk with myself. And that's what worked for me. Denise, is that weird? And I said, I don't think it's weird. We're all different. We're all different. We are called to have joy. Joy is part of the human experience. But having a human experience is not for ninnies. It isn't. It is not for wimpy people. If you are alive, you are not a wimpy person. If you are alive, you have a fine constitution. Human life, having this human experience, hang on to your hat. They don't tell you that, I don't think, before you come here. Maybe they do, but we forget it, isn't it? They don't say, there are going to be times when you're going to have to hang on to your arse, and there are going to be times when you're going to have to hang on to your hat, or one hand on each. Because having a human life, Holy smokes, it's a ride. Buckle up, because here you go. When we understand truly that even with the dark nights that we experience in life, our lifetime, in the scope of time, is the blink of an eye. It's the blink of an eye. Or as Black Elk once said, it's like the twinkling of a firefly. It's that quick. The twinkle of a firefly. That is the expanse of a human lifetime. We all make a difference. We are all needed. Sometimes the ways in which we are needed requires us to come out of a chrysalis, to blossom, to bloom in new ways. Every so often during the course of our lifetime, we are like the caterpillar. We go within the cocoon. We're not quite certain what's going to happen when the chrysalis begins to break and we begin to set ourselves free. I am a strong knower. It's not that I believe it, I know it. That we continue on. It is live, Kelly. It is live. Thank you for being here. Life is a continuum. Human life is very, very short. Tell the people that you love them. If you are feeling a lack of love, reach out. Reach out. You know, one of the beautiful things I really believe is that I believe most people are good. Some people think that I'm Pollyanna that way. I happen to believe that most of the people on this earth plane are beautiful souls. I believe that when we reach out, whether it's to a community agency, a community group, an outreach group, we're going to get help. Sometimes it requires us to say, I need help. I need help in this dark night. You know, recently, while I was out on the reservation, one of the ways in which when I'm going through a time of, I know something is changing. Something has changed. And it ain't over yet. I'm in the process of change. I reach out oftentimes to my teachers. Some of my teachers, you know them, you know my sisters. At this time in my life, and for many years now, one of my greatest teachers is Arval Looking Horse. So the moment that I got to the reservation, I asked Chue Barbara, can you please call Arval and see if he's going to be home? I need to talk to him. And she looked at me and she said, well, of course I will. So she called Arval, and he was on his way home from a treaty meeting. And there was a very small window of time in which he was going to be home. And she said, you know, Denise needs to talk to you. And he said, come on up. So we drove to Greengrass. And was sitting at the kitchen table with Arval. And I said, you know, Arval, I have some things that are weighing on my heart. And I have some things that are weighing on my mind and have been weighing on my mind for quite some time. As my teacher, as my mentor, I feel you are the only person that can help me out of this. And he looked at me and he said, okay, let's talk. And we talked. And he helped to shed some light where I couldn't find the light as my teacher, as a prayerful man. He helped me to find the light. I needed to reach out and ask. And you can ask Lily, because Lily was there at that time. I said to him, I feel like the weight of the world has been lifted off my shoulders, and now I can see clearly. I needed to talk to you. And he said, I'm glad that you reached out. Now let's go up to the roundhouse and pray. The roundhouse is where the white buffalo calf pipe is kept. Where, you know, he's now the 19th generational keeper. And we went up and we sang sacred songs and we made prayers. and prayers of gratitude. And then we went back down to Arval's house and we had a meal together. Sometimes we have to be strong enough in the darkness to reach out. And to reach out in a way that is good for our soul. Just like those crocus flowers reaching up through the soil toward the light. Right. Arval, I need to speak with you. I need your help. Yeah. Joyce is saying, great listening tonight. I have to go. Well, the show is wrapping up. The show is wrapping up. For those of you that are looking for help through the dark night, continue to look. Continue to reach out. Continue to reach out. Make phone calls. Make visits. Reach out to the people around you, to the agencies around you. This is a time of change. Easter represents change. Springtime represents change. The return of the goddess Ostara represents change, rebirth, renewal, self-realization, becoming new again, moving forward, shining in new ways, expanded ways. With that, everyone, thank you for being here with me, and continue to shine your light as only you can shine it. Blessings be, everyone.